Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fourth and Wrong. I'm Tyler.
I'm Chris.
All right. Well, we're gonna give
That
this
was a
one more
joke.
shot. Yeah, that was a joke. Now, how is Chris's audio? Because the last time we tried to record this about 30 minutes ago, things didn't go so well. So the people that weren't live in the chat, they may not have seen the debacle that just happened.
And the good
But
news is now my camera's blurry, so that's pretty sick.
that is pretty sick.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. All right. So far, so good. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna get after it.
Let's just start right here. I'm not moving for good luck.
This is
Let me try to get out all of my thoughts as quickly as possible, just in case something goes bad. Notre Dame came off like a big bunch of pussies. Bama looked terrible against Georgia. Hell of a game from Georgia. James Madison barely knew her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we're
Nailed
gonna
it.
be good. All right. Sweet.
That's the show.
Yep. Okay. So things have been wild. We're starting the pod over. So it's been a while. I was when we were having some audio issues, I was explaining to the crowd that was here live earlier, was a crowd of about 150 people. We're back already up to 52, 53, climbing.
What sucks is now we only have 30 minutes.
That's true, but we can try to speed through it. I've taken all the blame for the last 2 years of the on and again, off again recording. We're going to try to be better next year, but I've been traveling for work. We missed a big week last week on the pod. In the meantime, Florida State's kept its coach, so that's good. But yeah, it's been crazy. A lot of debate about who should be in the playoff, just like it is every year. Shocking that moving it to 12 teams would somehow create this like, nobody can argue when you're the 13th team. You should have been better. Well, it's just the argument's just as loud as it was when there was 4. Now we're arguing for 16. There's some bowls that have been announced. People have been opting out of bowls left and right. A lot going on. Coaching carousel. We haven't even been on here to talk about kicking LSU and your coverage there. So where do you want to start?
So we're going to start with the college football playoff rankings and the reaction. I have a lot of takes on that we'll get into all of them. And before we do, I want to remind everyone, in the last 2 seasons that they've had a college football playoff ranking, 2023, I thought Florida State should have been in over Alabama. 2024, I thought South Carolina should have been in over Alabama, or at least had a better, more of a valid reason to be in over Alabama, even though Bama beat them early in the season. So that is where I've stood in terms of that one team in the last 2 playoffs.
Right.
I think Alabama deserved to get in this year, regardless of all the other things like that surrounding the decision. Now, let's start with the college football playoff rankings. Did you watch it live?
Yeah, I did.
There's so many things to discuss on it. Like, I don't want to just jump into Notre Dame overreacting, but I think there's so many things that like I've had an issue with throughout this entire process. Like, we didn't record 2 weeks ago, and that was the episode where Hunter Yurachek said that Bama didn't move up because they weren't really good at running the football. He's not wrong about that at all, as we saw on Saturday. Yep. But I've never heard that used as a metric in the college football playoff rankings at any point in time. This has always been a flawed system, and it's partially because of our own greed as fans, and also because of greed from like television stuff and all the contracts and shit like that. But like, remember back in the day, we thought we had it made. We thought it was just normal to have like a bunch of writers from around the country name 2 separate national champions and play a bunch of bowl games that all meant something. And they were like, let's get computers involved, right? When computers became real big, we're like, you know what? What's the biggest thing going right now? Monica Lewinsky blowjobs, Y2K, computers. Let's get one of those involved in college football. And luckily for us, it wasn't Monica Lewinsky. And well, it may have been with Mike Price, but we didn't like that anymore because then it put Alabama and LSU in a rematch in 2011, and people didn't want to see that. So then we went to a 4-team playoff out of the gates. TCU was a 5 seed in 2014. Upset about that. Ohio State upset in 2015 and 2017. And then you had the 2022 Bama whole debacle, and they were on the outside looking in, and deserved to be. I just assumed that no matter what you move this to, you were going to have the same stupid arguments. It's just going to adjust to the total number of teams plus 2. And I thought they would have gone to 6 or 8 teams, and they went right to 12. And I thought last year was a joke. The way they selected like so many of these teams that had zero quality wins, their strength of schedule was terrible. All of those metrics that we had like used as not like the Bible, but like used as one of the key components in how do we assess a team, like their worth and their resume. And none of that was used last year for the most part. Like SMU, multiple teams got into the college football playoff without having a single win over a ranked opponent all year. And I believe a quarter of the field had a strength of schedule outside of the top 70. So now this year, we're going to right that wrong, and that's going to be used. Strength of schedule is going to be used, strength of record, all that kind of stuff. I think Notre Dame should have been in the playoff. I think they're a good enough team. They should have been in the playoff. I also think Alabama's full body of work in the season deserved to be in the playoff. For weeks, we've been hearing about like, Tennessee and Mizzou, they shouldn't even be ranked. That's just propping SEC teams up. Then they fall by the wayside. All the SEC bias talk that's happened in the past years has not really been real this year at all. 3 of the top 5 teams from the Big Ten. Notre Dame lost their 2 biggest games of the year right out of the gates and then played a bunch of nobodies for the most part, beat everyone like a drum. Miami's back like 3 spots. I guess in this very long-winded intro here, how through 6 weeks, if you were going to land on the decision that Miami's game over Notre Dame mattered that much, how did you not ever rank them ahead of them until the very last episode of this thing?
Well, that's where that's where this thing is like such a TV show. And I don't think they should bother doing the rankings like that every single week leading up, because they backed themselves into a corner by first of all, Notre Dame started out 0-2 and they were just never unranked.
Ever.
Yeah, never unranked. And then, by week 6, they had already climbed up above Miami in the polls, even though they had lost to them. And you essentially, you made for the argument, you had to put Miami in once Virginia lost, because you're sitting here thinking, okay, well, we didn't change anything when up until now. Now the teams are right next to each other. Notre Dame kind of stayed where they were. Miami slowly kind of built their way back up towards Notre Dame, and then the final rankings fall, and they're right next to each other. You have to, you can't. They played each other. I mean, I get that Notre Dame's a different team now, but they played each other. Miami won. I mean, to me, that it's just really plain and simple there. But the committee put themselves in that position by ranking the teams the way they did weeks ago. I don't know. I don't understand why we do that.
And so here's the other thing I don't understand either is that, like, I do the same shit every year. I make the same mistake every single year during this time. I'm like, okay, it seems like a lot of people are arguing about the playoff rankings. I bet if I go put together a little Canva graphic listing out all of the metrics that we're talking about so you can see them side by side, that will show people, hey, if you want to believe in the eye test, fine, but here's the actual numbers that they're basing everything off of. And like, this is why a thing is a certain way versus a different way. What's happened this year is gone. We're so far past being able to have any sort of like logical conversation, and things have somehow gotten even more like messy in terms of and unorganized. Like, you have all these different conferences. Not everyone's playing the same amount of Power 4 games, conference games. Some people aren't playing conference championship games. Miami not being in the ACC championship because of whatever weird way their tiebreaker broke was insane.
Yep.
And you want to talk about that, not doing as much as you can for the best team in your conference. Then you had the SEC thing where you had 4 teams tied with 1 loss, and Bama goes in. Like, I said this a couple weeks ago. If when Bama lost to Oklahoma, I was like, I think they're going to beat Eastern Illinois. I think they're going to beat Auburn. I think they're going to beat A&M. And I stand by that. I don't think A&M's as great as we think, because they haven't played anybody or been tested. And when they have, they've lost, except for the Notre Dame like miracle in the start of the season. Having to go to Atlanta and replay the number 3 team in the country in a rematch, while Notre Dame and Miami sat at home, while BYU went and got their ass kicked by Texas Tech again, that was when I thought that loss would at least kind of quiet down some of the comparisons, because they didn't make a lot of sense. And as much as I liked BYU and thought they deserved to be talked about more, you heard this over and over and over again. Well, BYU lost their conference championship game, and that didn't matter to Alabama, but it apparently only matters in the Big 12. Well, the difference is, let's just start here. BYU played that team twice and got their ass kicked both times. Bama, they lost to Florida State. They lost on Saturday, and they were both really bad losses. But what never seemed to occur for a lot of people that were objectively talking about this was, hey, they did also beat Georgia. Like that's a pretty big win. Think about how low Georgia has been.
The Vandy
Was
win.
that
The Vandy win?
right?
Yeah.
And all the stuff that like was like already in the people's like in the chamber of the SEC's always propped up with ranked wins because they overrank all these teams. And it's like, okay, so then what happens at the end of the season? Missouri and Tennessee drop out. Iowa, who's 8-4, and also 0-3 against ranked opponents, they go in. And that gives an extra top 25 win to 2 top 5 Big Ten teams. And I'm fine with all of that if we just sit here at the beginning of the year and say, all right, here's the exact data points, the metrics, the numbers we are going to base this off of. Put them in a fucking computer so there's no, like, not just so there's no, like, issues of being objective, so you don't even have to have the optics and like, conspiracy theory bullshit that, like, somehow this is being, like tampered with. But just figure that part out so at least we're all on the same page of this is what we're going to be basing our decision off of. And I didn't even know until yesterday, dude, that like each committee has a different way every year of how they rank.
That's
like,
I mean, I can just speak from personal experience. When the first playoff, when Florida State was in, that was Jameis's last year there. They were using some metric called, I haven't heard it since, called game control. And even though Florida State was undefeated, they didn't control enough of the games they won. So we
undefeated and defending national champs.
Yeah. So we might have to leave them out. We don't really know. Eventually, it's like, dude, okay. I mean, these guys haven't lost in 29 straight games. Yeah, they ended up getting boat raced in the first playoff game, but still, there shouldn't be a debate. And they dropped all the way down to, I think, 3 or 4. Like,
they were 4. Oh, they were 3. They were 3.
Yeah, 3, I think. And then, obviously 2023, we don't have to get back into that, but it's like, oh, you don't have your quarterback, so you can't play. It's like, well, with our third string quarterback, it didn't look pretty, but with our third string quarterback, we went on the road, beat our rival, and then we played in the ACC championship game against a top 20 team, top 15 defense, pulled it out. Defense had a great game. And it's like, well, you know what? It didn't look great. In the whole game, that whole game, they talked about how Florida State was probably going to get left out because they look so bad. Never lost a game.
It's miserable.
Every year, there's a different metric of how and that's just my two teams that I follow heavily. I know that every fan base probably has like some crazy metrics that was used against them. It's weird. Okay, you can't play because you don't have your quarterback. There's 2 teams that are playing each other that don't have their head coaches.
There's more than that. I mean, there's I think a quarter of the field is either their coach is out the door or Pete Golding's case, like he's a new coach. Not to mention all the coordinator changes and all that kind of shit. Like, we've always known there's been a lot of problems and flaws in college football. I didn't realize it was this bad. And again, my biggest thing is like, in frustration is, if you don't think Bama should be in, that is totally fine. I get it, especially after Saturday. Now, I will sit here and tell you till I'm blue in the face, that win against Georgia was the best win of anybody in the country up until Saturday night when Indiana beat Ohio State. By the way, the team in the top 12 that has the most like validity and reason to gripe was not Bama, was not Miami, Notre Dame, or like BYU. It was fucking Georgia going 12-1, winning the SEC championship, beating a top 10 team, like dog walking them in Atlanta, and then not even moving up at all. I thought that Bama should have at least dropped in the rankings. I thought that would have obviously made sense. And what we've started doing, like, this could have been, we've like moved away from any sort of like back and forth and like understanding, or at least like all trying to even be on the same page. And now it's like, okay, if you don't say what I agree with, whether it's a fan, sometimes coaches, or media, like from all sides, if you don't say what I think in my brain, then not only are you wrong, but there's like a bigger thing going on behind the scenes that we're not even talking about. This is obviously because of TV deals. Hearing Notre Dame cry about getting like not getting a fair shake. There's not a team in the history of this fucking sport that has been handed more things on a silver platter than Notre Dame. And the fact that like they played 2 top 10 teams and lost both of them, I don't give a shit that you went and like boat raced everyone else on the rest of the season. They are a really good team. And again, I think they were good enough to make the field. But when you have sit here and cried over and over and over again, not just Notre Dame, but all these fans like from around the country, we're tired of watching just the SEC Invitational. We're tired of watching the Alabama Invitational. We got to get more teams involved. Let's jump from 4 to 12 and make sure we get the group of 6 team involved so they can get their ass kicked right off the bat. And this year, because you're so fucking bad at putting together just like, I don't know, like the ability to plan a 12 team. Basketball does it with 60 fucking 8 teams a year. We couldn't figure out 12. And so now we have Tulane and JMU both in, and everyone else is arguing over these 3 spots. Meanwhile, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, I'm sorry, like Ole Miss, Oregon, and who's the other one? A&M, who haven't played the most difficult schedules, are just sitting pretty. Indiana last year, like it's so bizarre to me that you could sit here and watch the entire season like play out and not be able to sit here and say, hey, Notre Dame, like I know you're a blue blood. I know you have the most tradition and the like whatever you want to say, pat yourself on the back. That's great. Join a fucking conference, guys. Everyone's been asking you to do it forever. And then when you kind of did, you made sure to link yourself to the weakest of all the Power 4 conferences. Last year they got in, they didn't play a fucking road game, a true road game from week 3 to week 14. And also keep in mind this too, Tyler, and we'll shift to the Notre Dame part. This is a team last year that was 11-1 and didn't get a bye because the way that the rules were written then, parameters was, well, if you don't win a conference title, you are not eligible to get a first round bye. And Notre Dame was pretty much the only team that was going to already be out before a game was played. So in the offseason, they changed that to where it would not impact teams like Notre Dame. So just Notre Dame. And then this year, they go 10-2.
I mean, UMass, come on. Well, actually, no, they're not independent anymore. UConn?
Wait, say what?
You going to say UConn? That's not going to affect UConn?
You have any idea how difficult it is? You guys think it's so easy to go on the road at Texas A&M or at like the Swamp against 4-8 Texas? We had to go play fucking Air Force in Mile High Stadium. We had to go play at Coors Field. Like what? Like it's been a joke forever. And again, everyone talks about how like SEC and Bama bias and all that kind of shit. I heard it for years. There's no one that has had more things catered to them specifically than Notre Dame. There are Notre Dame fans and media bitching about how unfair it is that the television network like relationships with the other conferences could have somehow impacted them in a negative way. Meanwhile, they've been on NBC by themselves for 35 fucking years. Like the AD came out today and went like scorched earth on the ACC for protecting a team that's fully involved in their conference. And then their solution was, then fine, we're not going to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. No one fucking cares, dude. No one cares.
Oh, here's my my favorite thing about Notre Dame. You could say that join a conference. Well, as the rules start next year, I don't know if you saw this.
Oh,
Chris,
this is the best part.
They don't really have any incentive to join a conference because they have a guaranteed spot in the playoff if they are ranked in the top 11. Now, you brought up on Twitter this week the joke of a schedule that they have next year. Yeah. What are the chances they're going to be in the top 11?
As good as they were last year. Tyler, they're the only team that ever had an agreement in the BCS era that was like, if you get to 10 wins, if you get to 10 wins, you're in. Like that's you get a BCS or a New Year's Six Bowl. They were the only team that had that agreement. And listen, I get that they were probably great in the 30s. I bet when there was only whites out there, I bet they were fucking awesome. Just good Catholic football, playing Ivy League institutions. And just fucking nepotism and third and long. I bet it was awesome, dude. I bet it was awesome. But like, they haven't won a national championship in almost 40 fucking years. Last year, when they beat Georgia, it was the first win they've had, I think, in a BCS or New Year's Six Bowl, or maybe it was the year before that against Oklahoma State. But like, first one they had since 1995. They were 0-11 before that. They constantly struggle when they get on the biggest stages like this late in the year, especially against the SEC. But remember last year, they beat Georgia with a backup quarterback the day after a terrorist attack while Kirby's dad was fucking dying in the hospital. And like, I don't need that to be brought up every time if you're going to make that argument. Like, we beat Georgia. What I do need from someone, like one of the adults in the room, is to say, okay, we're being pretty critical of this team for things that are almost parallel and identical to like this team, but we cannot fucking see that. Like they lost in week 1 to Miami, but they're a much different team from then. Bama lost to Florida State. It's like, yeah, but then what about the rest? When did we switch to quality losses again? Like if you again side by side, strength of record, strength of schedule, opponent winning percentage, amount of top 25 wins. Notre Dame was not only not ahead of Bama, they weren't ahead of Miami or BYU either. They had the worst numbers like in that comparison, which was a pretty standard metric that most committees have used, and this one did too.
With all this going on, there are some good matchups. Now we do have a couple rematches.
Where?
Tulane, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, right?
I want to say one last thing before we get into it. The thing that really bums me out the most, man, is that this really could have been like an all-time 12-team like playoff setup where it's like if you didn't fuck yourself in like the first place of putting James Madison and Tulane in the field. Any logical person can look at that and say, there's no fucking reason they are going to play in this game. There's no reason at all. And I don't know if it's because we got so enamored with the Boise State win over Oklahoma in like 2007 or 12-5 upsets in March Madness. I don't know. But like, imagine if this was in this year, especially the other two teams in the 12-team playoff were Miami, Bama, Notre Dame, and then BYU or Vanderbilt, who was also equally deserving as I think at least one or two teams, not even James Madison and the other one, in the field, and we never even talked about
them. Well, I think the Tulane Ole Miss game will be close. Obviously, when they played the first time, Mississippi only won by 6 touchdowns. So at this point, maybe, or was it 7? I can't. Something like that.
It was 45-10.
Yeah. No, for all, I mean, look, the Oregon JMU Tulane Ole Miss is what it is. But I'm excited for the A&M Miami matchup. I think that's going to be a good game. I think the Bama Oklahoma rematch will be good. It's at Oklahoma. I think is Bama favored still?
Favored. And I have a question for you because it's a legitimate question. Because I think that we've lost the fucking like plot so badly with this stuff. And you saw it last year when it was like it's the moment SMU went down early against Penn State. It was like this team got in. Really, this team got in. Bama could have lost to them by 30, or Ole Miss could like. What do you think? Like, what would Alabama specifically, but also maybe like Miami, have to do in this playoff for fans outside of their fan bases to say, like, you know what? Yeah, they did deserve to be in.
Just win.
Like, how many games?
1.
You think if Bama beats Oklahoma, they'd be like, you know what? We were wrong.
Well, they lost to them last time. No offense, but it's like, yeah, I think it's a pretty big win, and it's on the road. I don't know. I'm actually not sure why Bama's favored. They haven't looked great in their last 2 games, but that's beside the point. Yeah. That's a significant win. I mean, Oklahoma. If you look at Oklahoma's schedule this year, I mean, they had some really good wins this year. They beat Michigan. They beat the Texas game was tough. They beat Tennessee on the road. They beat Bama on the road, and then they finished up beating Missouri and LSU, which Missouri's a good win. LSU is kind of on the ropes there, but I mean, Oklahoma's a really good team right now. Really good defense. Bama can't run the ball, so I think if they win that game, that's a huge win, and it validates them being there. Same with Miami.
I think Miami of the opening round games, because the first 2 are going to be awful. They're going to be awful. Like, and the fact that we get that Saturday for those 3 games alone, it just kind of blows. Where it's like, I think the Oregon JMU game is at night. That's like the night game. The Miami Texas A&M game is at noon, and then obviously Ole Miss is at 3:30. But I think Miami and A&M, that is going to be such an incredible matchup because of the fact that like you have 2 really, really capable teams, talented teams, and offenses that can like when they're on are really good.
Yeah, look, maybe something crazy happens, but yeah, those first few games. Well, they're not the first games in order, but I guess they're the last 2 games. Tulane and JMU. Not totally looking forward. I would love if like a Notre Dame and a Vandy had been in those 2 spots, obviously, but who knows? From this has kind of created this fallout of the bowl games, and It's kind of crazy how fast this has happened. I don't know how long bowl games are going to be around, or maybe it becomes like the like G5 bowl games, because it just seems like a couple years ago that we were like throwing a fit because star players were opting out of
Yeah.
bowl games, and like, Christian McCaffrey, like everyone was like, "Oh God, like I can't believe this guy. He's
Kyle Pitts.
bailing on his team." Like, and then it moved to all the starters. Like when Florida State, everybody opted out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, and now Notre Dame, and they're not the only team. They're the high profile team, and it makes them seem whiny because they didn't get in, which a lot of people clamored for Florida State to do in 2023. But Kansas State, Iowa State, a bunch of they were bowl eligible. They said we're not going to play in games, and there's different reasons. I mean, Kansas State's coach retired randomly. Matt Campbell left for Penn State. But then even these 5 and 7 teams like Auburn, Florida State that have high APRs that can go into bowl games, they're like, no, we don't play either.
I love it. Mississippi State is like the one that's like, yeah, we'll do it. They've done it like 3 times in the past decade. I thought Auburn should have. I thought that would have been good. But just like it really frustrated me because it was one of those things where there's been like tough breaks for a lot of different teams and programs over the years, and like dramatic, Sunday reveal shows or whatever. And again, I don't know why the committee did this the way they did it. Like I think that needs to be drastically changed. I also think you need to move the G5 or G6 schools into their own like bracket and just crown a different champion at this point. And like at this point, I think the not even because I want to see another team play a tough schedule. Like I'm just so exhausted from having the same fucking dumb arguments where it's like I don't know how we could be further apart in the most basic numbers where it's like, all right, you want the SEC to play 9 games, they're going to play 9 games. Like, how about we all play 10 Power 4 opponents? No, you need to have universal scheduling for like the actual number of games in your 12 game season, and how many of those are going to be against P4 teams. That's what Danny Cadelli even said. He was like, to be eligible for a spot in the playoff, you have to play at least 10, and figure out a way to include games against other Power 4 conferences. And like but you have to make things from every single angle, at least like on paper, like more universal and parallel from one conference to the next, because everyone knows if you play a 9 game conference schedule in the ACC, it's not going to be as difficult as the SEC or whatever. But we at least need those teams to be playing the same amount of games, so we don't have to like get lost for weeks in these like irrelevant arguments.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a tough component to this because even within the P4, if you schedule all conference games, obviously that's going to mean a different thing in the ACC than it is the SEC. So that's one. And then 2, you could say, well, maybe we go the other way and we say maybe it's like 5 conference games, 5 out of conference games. So everyone's like playing everybody. But then it's like
with the 90s?
Yeah, but then it's like, well, these like the Big 10 and the SEC have a lot more money than the Big 12 and the ACC. So like it's not really so it's real convoluted right now, man.
I feel like where we got lost though, man, is like when it was like, if you just said surface level, like I think all conferences should play the same amount of games. They should play 9 games. That is, at this point, I feel like a fair thing to say. And like I would be on board with it just to save us all the other steps like that led up to it. But if you start that conversation and then say, and you have to play this team or like this certain week, and you like it, you also have to, like, whoever's in charge of making the rankings, you have to figure out a way to say like, all right, not everyone's gonna be able to play like the same level of competition every year. Like maybe Ohio State schedules an SEC team and they suck that year, or like vice versa. Like, and if that happens, they deserve credit. Like if you go out and win a game that matters in a big moment, like that deserves credit. And I think that the quality loss thing is, it's weird. That's the first thing we all go to now.
I think people just create narratives to form, or better execute their opinion. We do the same.
I guess.
I mean,
I wish we could just fucking like Indiana's the best team in the country, Tyler.
No shit.
They're awesome.
I saw a clip that was going viral on Twitter that was Coach Corso back when he was the coach of Indiana 43 years ago, saying like, I think we could win a championship in Bloomington like at some point, and they've just been a laughing stock for decades, literally until 2 years ago. Signetti comes in, he has a great year last year, even better this year. Corso passes away. It's just destiny.
Awesome.
It's destiny.
I talked so much shit about Indiana for so long about their schedules. I'm telling you right now, man, they are awesome to watch for one. And I was definitely pulling for them on Saturday night, but they're a great football team, man. They're a great football team.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, just that guy. I can't believe he's like might be the first overall pick. Like that's
see his Heisman odds like right before the game on Saturday. One of the sportsbooks updated it, and they're like Diego Pavia is once again the favorite. It was like minus 150 to plus 110, and then as soon as the game ended, it jumped up to minus 3,000.
Jeez. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Okay. Quick on the coaching carousel. There's been a lot going on. Obviously, you're down in Baton Rouge. You've covered the Lane thing. I'll get into your opinion on there. But what so far? What has been kind of like the most underrated or best hire you think? Because I mean, there's like and OCs in DC, like Buster Faulkner to Florida is a great hire. Like Billy Napier to JMU. Like I think that's a pretty good hire. Like I liked the Heartline to USF. I thought that was cool. I like Will Stein.
I kind of expected him to get a big job.
I think this is one of those like prove that it's not like a Ryan Day thing kind of first before. I don't know, but
what a role reversal there for Ryan Day, because like it was 2 years ago that we were like can't win the big one. He's only good because he has all this talent, whatever. I wrote about this today. Shameless plug on LouisianaSports.net. But I was like, because I think obviously Kiffin is the guy, and we'll do this again, and hopefully we won't have a 30-minute delay because of technology, which is my fault, and I don't get it. But like watching this whole thing from here, like and kind of being in it, like and hearing that it was like a done deal like 2 weeks prior, and then also finding out that Florida felt the same way, and like just it was wild to watch. But I will say this: I think what impressed me even more than the Lane hire is that Florida got the other guy that was like everyone's like one A, 1B on their wish list for coaches. Like before Lane was even a possibility, Summerall was the name at like the top of the list of like almost every single opening. And Florida ends up with him. And I was kind of like, all right, well, we'll see. I mean, like I don't know enough about Tulane, but he seems like everyone wanted him. He's probably a pretty good coach. Him hiring Buster Faulkner makes me feel like that not only did they make a great hire and they could be pretty good like right away, but also it almost makes you feel like from top to bottom, not just the head coach, they may have won like the whole coaching carousel this year because of what they're able to put together as a staff.
I think it's so great point. Corsa did not die. He just died on TV.
Oh shit.
You better
hope that we don't get out off this episode and then he dies.
Oh man.
Chris Eel says, so nothing about this past weekend. Thank you for tuning in to the last 2 minutes of the show to ask. Dude, Georgia was awesome. You want me to close with praising Kirby?
Yeah, why not?
Tyler, I just wish that you could have been in my brain or sitting right next to me, because that game was miserable, and I kind of felt like it was coming, but I was like not gonna be super vocal about it with the people I was with. And that blocked punt, I was like, oh boy, this looks not good. And at one point in the fourth quarter, when it was like 21-0, and they were just fucking beat to shit and had nothing going on, I'm in the end zone. The play is going away from us. We had been drinking all day. And they threw like a deep end to Jeremy Bernard, and then all I could see was him running across the field and then just fucking heaving the ball across the field to a running back on like, I didn't even know if that was on purpose. I can't. That was the highlight of maybe the year for Alabama. That was awful. But Georgia was awesome, dude. And I tell you what's been really impressive, Tyler, from the beginning of the year when everyone was questioning Gunnar Stockton and especially the defense and the secondary and like the lack of pass rush and all that kind of stuff, watching them up close in person on Saturday, they look like they have slowly morphed into not just being like way more fundamentally sound, way more dominant on defense, and like seeing the right keys and being in the right spots like more often. Ellis Robinson has grown up tremendously since like the first month of the season, they look like they have morphed into one of Georgia's past defenses. They're fucking huge. There's athletes everywhere, and they have enough firepower for fucking 48-year-old Gunnar Stockton and his bald head to go out there and go 14 of 19 for 171 yards and win the game. It's been awesome.
They have a nice little path too. I think the 3 seeds got the best path to at least the semifinal.
I agree.
They play the winner of what? Oregon,
Ole Miss, Tulane.
Yeah, Ole Miss, Tulane. So
that was like the silver lining, I think, to them not moving up in the rankings.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, I know you got to go, but it was chaotic first 30 minutes. That was a totally separate episode, but this one turned out okay. So I think we'll get back. Hopefully, let's get back next week and at least preview some of these playoff.
Maybe we have some drinks on Thursday and we talk into a 30-minute episode.
Ooh. All right. We'll see. All right.
My bad.
Yeah, it's okay. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We will hopefully catch you guys on Thursday, but if not, definitely next week. I promise you, next week we will definitely be here. Unless Chris bails.
I will not ever again.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later. See you.